We are rolling. Ba ba da ba ba ba. Yes, I'm back. King Fred in the place to be. That is my back bedroom. So that's the place to be. With my records behind us, well, some of them anyway. Still got some hidden at my dad's, but don't tell him in his loft. Because my wife doesn't like how many records I've got here. That's a story for another time. Neither of them will be watching this, so I can get away with saying that. But without any, without going any further on that and grassing myself right up, I will pass you across to.
I'm Craig. I'm Mr. Sayers. Yes, I know Fred, and I've known Riddler for a long time.
Yeah.
Working in a record shop, RPM. I've done for 6 years. I've kind of worked in clubs and did your own night. I'm stretching the term, did your own night. But yes, you did Fuzzy Warbles for about 15 years and did a couple of club nights. Well, 2 club nights, one of which was at Star and Shadow.
Right. Okay. Before we start, I need to clear something up. Is your name Mark or is your name Craig?
My name's Craig. You can't even refer to me as Mark or Mr. C. Anything you want.
Okay.
I'll know you. But yes, I'm Craig.
So Julie and John and I think Riddler, who always correct me when I call you Craig, and they say, no, he's called Mark. Where are you getting that from? Right. I'm right. You're wrong.
Riddler, I've done since the mid-90s. I'd be disappointed if you didn't know me as Craig.
Right, okay. I mean, I don't know who's Riddler. I think it's Julie and John have always corrected me when I said, Craig. And they're like, he's not called Craig, he's called Mark. And so when I was talking about you, I said, it's the same person, man. And they showed us a picture on Facebook because they had you on before me. I said, that's Craig. He puts the nights on. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Julie and John is excusable, but Riddler, if you watch it, you should know.
To be fair to Riddler, I don't think it was Riddler. I think it's Julie and John who have said it, okay?
Yes.
We'll probably come back and say it now.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, we'll get into it. Thank you, first of all, for agreeing to do this.
Pleasure, and thank you.
Not a problem at all, thank you. Definitely, I think for me, I'm over the moon because I like to get different people on. I said that from the start. If we were going to do it and do it properly, that I wanted it not just to be, and no disrespect to anybody, but I didn't want it to be the typical sort of hip-hop fans that I know, which tend to be white middle-aged men, which is nothing wrong with white middle-aged men. I'm not one of them, but you know, that tends to be the sort of hip-hop fan that I sort of know in the main. I wanted it to be white middle-aged men, but I also wanted it to be females. I wanted it to be black males, black females, white females. I wanted it to be people that maybe, you know, so some people I know who like hip hop, you would never know they do. And then I just drop in conversation and they'll say, oh, yeah, I like this and I like that. And when I'm saying hip hop, I mean they're deep into it. They know their stuff, but you wouldn't know from the outside because they also like other music and, you know, they don't dress in the sort of hip hop manner, you know, the baseball cap, the hoodie, or the Air Max or Superstars, you know. I wanted a good cross section of people. And also wanted it to be fans. So, you know, people that people don't know. Love to get people on that are rappers, you know, DJs who are in the scene, promoters, that type of stuff. And also people at work or own record shops as well. So you're my first record shop dude. So that's great. Okay? But we'll talk about... One, sorry?
I've just said fair enough. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. That I like your inclusive sort of approach and not getting one demographic because you get the same answers. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm a middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
Kind of lost a bit of interest in hip hop. Boom bap era, 93, 94. It went thuggy. It went whatever it went.
Yeah.
I'd broadened into other music. It got put on the back burner. I still like that. So if you ask me, like, this is a conversation we were having prior to shooting the thing, you know, like, ask me best rappers ever, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane. And you ask anyone my age, they've got to have them, they don't got to, but that would come up in their top 5, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
So you get the same one-dimensional, I don't know if you've ever heard the term Euroman. It'd be Euroman sort of mid-aged guy. Echo chamber.
Yeah, that's true, but I suppose it's an interesting one because when I've spoken to people and asked for the top rappers, they'll give me the top rappers, and then when we're doing the favourite 5s, it's not always been what's happened, and I find that quite interesting. So there might be the favourite rapper, but it's not necessarily the favourite albums that they're on. So that's just something to think about as well. So you would think Rakim would be every top 5, but he's not. Yeah, you ask people who their favorite rapper is, and he is. He's in that, but he's not in their favorite albums, which is just something to think about anyway.
So you don't think he came across good on an LP? Because I did think of Rakim. His first album and his second album have all these classic tracks on.
Yeah,
there's rubbish on there. I mean, my opinion, Eric B's a rubbish DJ.
Yeah.
So I would come in with either restored or fourth album, let the rhythm hit him.
Mm-hmm.
They're a more consistent album and a better album, albeit they haven't got the classic tracks on, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting debate. I just think, if you ask people for the top 5 rappers and then ask them, and ask them to come on here and talk about the top 5 albums, if you go back over the ones we've done so far, Rakim's not mentioned that that often. You know what I mean? KRS isn't mentioned that often. Do you know what I mean? Big Daddy Kane's not mentioned that often. On album-wise, I'm just talking about album-wise. So I think that's one of the reasons why I love this sort of like thing that we've been doing, because it's not your usual suspects always. Usual suspect in albums, so critical beatdown, always on there. Yeah.
It's a Bronx classic. There's no getting away. You know what I mean?
But they don't get mentioned. They don't get mentioned as lyricists though. So just
Pardon?
They don't get mentioned as lyricists when you talk about.
Cool Keith with his abstract flow is next level.
Yeah, but he's in your top 5. Is he in your top 5?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. But he's not in many. He's not in many.
Because like, I'm trying to think of examples of his lyrics, and certainly when they did the Dr. Octagon thing in Hip Hop It Got Stale, and he had an abstract thing rhyming about just total left field stuff.
Yeah.
He was great, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Instead of Jason Cloud Schneider, I wouldn't put him in the top 5 rapper, but Cool Keith, just the things they were going on about, other rappers, they were light years ahead, you know, the subject matter, even on stuff like traveling at the speed of thought, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not arguing with you. I think because
no.
It's horses for courses, and I just think it's just interesting because I did think when I started doing this that all we would get would be Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, KRS-One. That's what I thought we would have every week, and it's not happened. So, which is great.
Great. Is top 5, and if whoever has it in their top 5, I'm not arguing with that. I'd agree. Wouldn't be a main top 5 album. You know what I mean?
It's fine. Wouldn't be a main though. So there you go, Mr. Controversial again. So there we go. Anyway, enough about that. We've gone too far into the discussion part, and we haven't even talked about your first album. So let's hit them with your first album. Okay. Do you want anything else? I've got to say before you start this, I'd never even heard this before. I heard anything about it, so I was like, oh, who's this? So tell everybody who this is for those who don't know.
They're from California, the West Coast, and they're not thuggy like NWA. I guess the content would be closer to someone like Run DMC, and certainly one of the cuts is called Me and Joe. And they're having a Run DMC type flow, and they're using Run DMC Me and Joe sample.
Yeah.
I guess it would be a precursor to some bass records.
Okay.
There's General Jeff, who's like a slept-on DJ from that period. You know, he did. I'm trying to think which 12. I might be Give Me the Mic. You know what I mean? It is Give Me the Mic. The B side of that, there's General Jeff. I should have dug the 12 out. I can't remember the title of the track. But there's a scratch track by him, and it's up there with people would cite of that era. Like it's up there with Jazzy Jeff. There were Cash Money. Yeah. And I think they get ignored, or if the light gets shone on West Coast, it would be NWA, it would be Eazy-E, or it would be some newer rappers from there. They're kind of, not as far as I'm aware, but to me, when I talk to people, they're a forgotten footnote, you know what I mean? They're on Egyptian Empire, they're saying label as Egyptian Lover.
Okay.
It's just great. It's a pretty solid album for what it is. If you like that little thing, it's on the money all the way through.
Okay, cool. Like I said before, I've never heard of them. Interesting that you picked them, and you've said it's got like sort of like, has it got that sort of Miami-based sound to it as well, has it? Is that what you're saying?
But someone who's like got an expert here who would point out some big glaring differences between and go, oh well, Miami pace is more around 120.
Whatever. Yeah.
Another finer nuances. But yeah, it's got like whiffs of the old electro thing, and would perhaps have hated on the East Coast in 1988. They weren't doing this, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it would be vastly different what would go down in the clubs, you know what I mean? If you were in LA and you played a West Coast, an East Coast album, perhaps you find it very danceable. I guess this is built around the culture of clubs and perhaps ladies dancing. I mean, I wasn't there, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I can only imagine, you know what I mean? But that's the impression I would get, really, so to speak.
Was it ever on things like UMTV and that? Because I've never come across them.
They kind of blew up, I forget the name. They did a slew of albums, but they did one album particularly, and it was a disc, it was called Fuck New York, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
A bit of water over that.
Was that not suicidal?
Eh?
Was that not suicidal?
Hey, I know nothing about this. I mean, I don't know if you know much of the history of Third Base, Dis and Hammer, and Hammer's brother being in, I can't remember if it was the Cribs or the Bloods. And when they went to LA, they had watch what they're doing. They had to get out there pretty quick. You know what I mean? It may be hard. You know, it might be some Bronx dude who is hard as an individual and a good one-on-one fighter from New York. But the gang culture was completely different over there. You know what I mean? I've no idea. I mean, they're not looking like gangbangers or anything. But I've no idea. I don't know whether that was just to get controversy to sell, or it was genuine sentiments that was fuck New York. I'm not too sure of the history of that, and I don't own that album. You know what I mean? I'm sure once I've posted this up and it gets launched, somebody will come and correct us on that. So we'll wait and see. Maybe it'll come up on the YouTube comments. So yeah, please comment if you know anything. Let me know. Okay. That's a pretty bold statement, though. You know what I mean?
That's what I was wondering. It seems to me like suicide when you think, you know, the majority of fans.
Tim Dog come out and said "fuck Compton," you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think you could get away with that because you were from New York. That's my point. To turn around and say "fuck New York" is a pretty bold statement when you're trying to make a name for yourself. I suppose you have to come pretty hard to
but a lot of these groups get gold and platinum records in LA without needing sales from New York. You know what I mean? The fan base was irrelevant. You know what I mean? Because it was like Miami artist Magic Mike, who owned his own label, Cheetah Records. Yeah. He could have 3 platinum albums, and they could only be selling in Miami and Florida.
Yeah, that was Too Short.
Not relying on sales or a fan base.
Well, we know that, don't we? Because we know people like Too Short was doing that out the trunk of his car, selling major sales. You know what I mean? Master P, that was doing it major before anybody else sort of knew about them. So it can be done. You know, and I agree with you. But I just suppose, just when you're trying to make a name for yourself, I suppose that's why, like you say, that maybe it was because we're trying to make a name for themselves.
It could have been in response to.
It could have been. It could have been.
To Tim Dog, for all I know, because I haven't like researched it. I'm just aware.
Yeah.
That, you know, I think there's this, then another third or fourth album they did down called "Fuck New York." You know what I mean?
I'm going to go look into it anyway and see if I can get any. But I'm sure somebody will come on and tell me on YouTube comments anyway. So before you put that down, what's your favourite song off that album?
It's got to be Everlasting Days. No, I mean, some of the other records I might go.
Everlasting Days.
Probably a good track on that, but Everlasting Days, without a doubt, hands down. It came out in 12 for some reason. I can't remember the Dutch label. I've got a Dutch press of it. I don't know how I've never bought a US one because it's one of my favourite 12s from that era.
Okay.
But yeah, Everlasting Days without a doubt.
Okay, nice one. Okay.
The songs is weak because it's pretty solid, but that does stand to me. It stands out.
Okay. Before we go on to your second choice, let's find out a bit of your hip hop history then. So, your accent doesn't sound like it's from Newcastle.
No, I'm not. No.
Where are you from?
I'm from Headingley Hall.
Headingley Hall.
Headingley Hall is County Durham.
County Durham. Yeah.
It's a rural pit village.
I thought there was a twang there somewhere. I was trying to piece it. Okay.
Well, people who like football try to lump you with, Mackems, Newcastle, this. I don't like football at all.
Fair enough.
avoid that. And I go, well, geographically, my postcode, when I lived at my mum's is DH5, so it's Durham.
Durham, okay.
Yeah.
So Durham, not known for its hip hop.
No, not at all, no.
More known for skinhead culture from back in the day, from one of those villages up that way. What was hip hop like for you growing up? How did you get into it? You know, was there many of yous?
It would surprise you. I mean, I would never say there was a lot, but I got into it about 1986, and I got passed some tapes through, and it was the back end of breakdancing going out. You know, like now with the internet, the country's nearly in unison. If something hits the country, is a fad or the new thing, it arrives en masse at every point. But back then, it would trickle up the country. So if something pops in London, like breaking and that's there 82, 83, gets here 84, 85, and it's Tiffany's. I got in just as the back of it was, you know, I don't know how popular breakdancing was because I wasn't into it. It's such at that point. It was the back end of that, you know what I mean? And it was still, like I used to buy so many cheap records, UK 12s from Spinning Disc in Sunderland, which was behind Park Lane bus stop. And they would have a sticker on the sleeve saying breakdance music. So I got Rock the Bells by LL Cool J. And had breakdance music on, and I got Feel a Rock, Back to Burn on 10 records, and you had a sticker saying breakdance music. And we just have a little box of cheap stuff on the counter because it's all largely rock and pop. So we didn't even know what we'd call it or what we were into, really, you know what I mean? The sport was because it wasn't the music of our parents, had no singing in it, and yes, I was aware James Brown was being sampled, but for the most part it was drum machines and synths, and I had no idea. I couldn't name an instrument at that time on some of the records, you know what I mean? So if I'm listening to Egypt by Egyptian Lover, and we were listening to these tapes while I was playing, we had a ZX Spectrum, you know, I'm sure you had it.
Okay.
So you're playing that. So if you're playing a computer game and you're listening to electro music, you're in the future, you know what I mean? It was dovetailing so good, you know what I mean? So, yeah, 86, and it seemed to be going out, you know what I mean? And a lot of people go, oh, you're still into that. And it's kind of getting into Beastie Boys, Run DMC, and Public Enemy, you know, pretty shortly after that.
So when you were growing up and you were listening to that, were you going to meet anyone anywhere? So were you going to Sunderland, or were you coming to Newcastle where other people were meeting up, and, you know, like, were you part of that, any of that?
So yeah, I met people in Sunderland first, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we met people through Newcastle, because it was like hippie green before the alternate crusties come out there.
Yeah.
It was Hippie, and we used to hang outside of there, and people had boom boxes. And back then, it wasn't the off-the-shelf sort of, I've been to Urban Outfitters and I bought an Amy Winehouse startup kit that looked like I'm old. If you saw someone back in the day and had some Puma trainers on with fat laces, and I had a bomber jacket with Public Enemy patch on, you could go up to them and you could guarantee that perhaps be a bedroom DJ, that collect rap, hip hop, that did graffiti on the breakdance. You could pretty much, you know, you'd be with your friend in the shop and you could see somebody go, hey, they're dressed like this, and you nudge and you go, are you using, you know what I mean? And it was very, you could do that. And again, like you're on about it being inclusive, your thing, and interviewing a variation of people. Music would unite. You had that common interest. Yeah. So you weren't bothered, you know, who that individual was. You know what I mean? You know, if they were a girl, if they were whatever they were, you know, it didn't matter. The common interest was you were in a minority group and you were dead passionate about this thing, which wasn't that big. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I'd just like to know where people, obviously, how people got their music, where they bought it from, who they were hanging around with, were they part of the scene, were they outside the scene, especially for like small town boys like yourself that weren't really like, you know, like living on Newcastle's sort of like outskirts, or, you know, like, you know, in the suburbs of Newcastle, like, you know, your West End or your East End and stuff like that. People like yourself had to make an effort to get into hip hop, didn't they? You know what I mean, at the time. So that's
I mean, the original tapes I got through my friend who was in my class, Wayne Charlton, come off his cousin who was a couple of years older. Yeah. He came moved to Newcastle and was at university through here.
Right.
And he'd have quite a few records, and he did go to Tiffany's and he did go to these things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'd be 14 and he'd be 18, you know what I mean? It filtered through that way. So it did. The first tape I got was a byproduct of him going to university in Newcastle.
Okay, cool. Okay, we'll come back to your history.
Yeah, sure.
But for now, we'll go on to number 2.
Well, we're going to Miami with MC Shy D.
MC who?
Shy D.
Shy D.
Africa Bambaata's cousin, no less, as he's claimed to fame. Not sure if he'd be claiming that now. But, you know, that's
MC Shy D, and he's from Miami. Is that right? Did you say that?
Yeah, he's on Luke Skywalker Records.
Okay.
Before George Lucas sued
Yeah.
Luther Campbell, he had to drop the Skywalker bit, and it was just Luke Records.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about MC Shy D. What do you know about them? What do people need to know about them?
I guess he could be barman because he's got a high-pitched vocal. Great rapper, coming from the school of like sort of Run DMC. He did live in the Bronx and in New York before he moved down to Miami.
So he is from there, and then he's a move across. Yeah.
He's moved down.
Yeah.
There's DJ Man, and like back then, the DJ was as important as the artist. Where now DJs are really, I mean, obviously you'd have a DJ at a gig playing records, but with groups, I don't think I could name a current group where I would say, oh, he's a DJ for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's great. It's a solid listen. It may be of its time, but it's absolutely fantastic. And this, and my next pick, I had on a tape which I got off a kid called Redmond when I got my first YDS. And back then, you'd have like a shoebox full of tapes and you'd have a Walkman, so everything was well listened to. And this and the next album was on there, and I just listened to them like the only most listened sort of things. And I mean, we used to like I had a 3D superwoofer, and you'd all chip in for batteries, and you'd take your ghetto blaster and you'd go and sit in the park. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably annoy people. I mean, that's mobile music, a ghetto blaster, as you know yourself. You know what I mean? It wasn't like your smartphone and a little iPod speaker thing. It was a sizable ghetto blaster, what you got a sore arm off, and batteries run about 3 hours, and you had to all chip in for some more batteries.
The funny thing is now for me is the place where I listen to music the most now is in my car, than it is about even in the house. You know, even with my records, I do play my records, but I listen to music more in my car than anywhere else because, I mean, apart from when COVID's been for the last year, but majority of the time, I'm in my car going to work or going in between meetings. It's stuck in traffic jams, and I get to listen to an album before I've even got to work sometimes, you know what I mean? At the moment, because of COVID, I can get to work in 10, 15 minutes, but sometimes it can take me over an hour to get to work. So I'm stuck in traffic and I'm listening to my music, you know? It's a funny thing.
Well, I can't drive, but I used to do the same. I go to work on the bus. I'd initially listen to hip hop, but to be absolutely brutally honest, because hip hop, especially certain albums, is in-your-face type of music.
Yeah.
I found it hard to listen to on a Walkman because it was just rah, rah, rah. And if you've been on the bus and you're getting at 7 o'clock calling bus to work, and then you're going into work with like, and you've just been listening to the Ghetto Boys or something, I think it's a hard transition, you know what I mean? To normalise yourself back out of that. You sort of like, rah, 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 rah. And I had to stop listening to it. It might be like, say, driving, you'd be a bit more aggy if someone beeps the horn. If you're listening to something a bit, like, I don't know, you know, like.
Nah, that doesn't have to be.
The Walkman, and the older I got, and I was transitioning into other types of music.
Yeah.
I would drop listening to hip hop because, you know, if I've just listened to ultramagnetic MCs and I'm coming through the door and I'm talking to Anne in the office in the furniture place where I'm working, my head's still in sort of ultramagnetics and banging Brit.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a bit of a, all right, I'm good, you know, it's a bit going from from that was a bit, yeah.
The only trouble I find with obviously with hip hop music a lot of the time is even if it's not the swearing or whatever, it's just like you say, the hardcoreness of it. You can't, for instance, I can never play my music at work. Do you know what I mean? So if I am playing music at work, it tends to be like funk or soul or something like that. I can't play, more hardcore stuff, British or USA stuff.
Yeah, you don't listen to hard ones and then just sort of,
no.
Gemini, artistic, poetic, ecstatic, I feel it.
Shout out to AJ, by the way, from Hard Noise. It's a good dude. So shout out to him. Okay, MC Shy D, what's your favourite track off that album?
I think it's going to be one with DJ Man's presence heavily in it. Haven't really thought about this one. Like the Rodney Earl was like, yeah, it's clear, it's definitely that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could. I'm not going to. If DJ Man cuts it up part 2, I think, you know what I mean? Just because he's cutting up classic breaks and just, it was the first time I was hearing some of them breaks, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they would go the first breaks you would buy, because I guess like Sherilyn Got to Be Real's a fairly easy break to get, you know what I mean? Okay. It's happening the spinners, it's a shame. So it's stuff, certainly the spinners you could find in your mum's collection if you had more time, you know what I mean? And you'd go,
okay.
What's that again? That's Shy D uses that, so it was good in that regard.
So even though he's in Miami, you never picked up on that Miami sounding, did he not?
It's Miami meets Run DMC, I would say, but yeah, it is Miami, you know what I mean? Just, yeah, there's no getting away from it's Miami, yeah. I mean, it's a dude from the Bronx doing Miami, whether that's...
Yeah, well, okay, well... yeah.
It's Miami. He did a follow-up album, and then he ended up in prison for something, which I'm not sure what he was in prison for a fair time.
Wow. Okay. All right then. Back to the history. You've got your ghetto blaster. You've chipped it in for batteries.
Yeah. 20 carrying it.
20 de-energizers. You've got love and hate on your knuckles. Nah. So you've outgrown the park.
Yes.
You've left school.
And I'd have a bus. Not that I couldn't get a bus pass when I was at school.
Yeah.
But more mobile to the YDS. I've got a bus pass.
Yeah.
I'll give me mum 10 quid board. I've got disposable income. So then looking at buying records as opposed to just the tapes.
Yeah.
Listening to a copy tape rather.
Okay. So you've got to that stage now, you're YTS and that. So I take it from then you were going to gigs by then. Yeah?
I was really late. I was having a discussion with my friend. And a lot of my friends went to some early gigs. Well, there's early, but they went to like London Posse at I think it was Planet Africa before it was World Headquarters. They went to see Professor Griff. They went to see Ruthless Rap Assassins. Yep. This was all, this would be like about 1990. I don't think I went to a gig till about 92 for whatever reason. I mean,
late, really late.
But yeah, but I still got to see. I was trying to think. I don't really like live music. And I don't really like live hip hop. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
that's interesting for a promoter. But anyway,
yeah. But I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, if you're a band now, you get no money from your record label. So if you went to see the Charlatans, they're sick of the live touring, you know what I mean? And like John Smith's cutouts. And the one thing I will say I really hate, unless it's a genuine sentiment, is encores. You're watching them go off, and it's just by numbers. Oh, the band's going off. They haven't did that song. We're all like, please come back, please come back. And they come back, and on the whole, they do the two big hits. You know, it's like I don't like it. And when I first went to see hip hop gigs, it'd be a rock engineer behind the desk, and he wouldn't get the sound out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been to creative gigs, and some of the early gigs I went to see Beastie Boys and Henry Rollins. circa third album. And that was unbelievable, you know what I mean? It was, yeah. I saw, this was at the old Riverside, saw Gangstar, J-Roo and Mello. Mello was great, Gangstar was on point, J-Roo just twisted and moaned, far side about that period. But yes, I don't think I went to any gigs till about 92 for whatever reason. But previously, there was like Tiffany's, which I never went to, but then there was Walker's, and I'd go to Walker's on a Saturday, so I don't know how I didn't get pulled into going to any of these gigs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was aware of them, and my friends went to them. I don't know why I wouldn't have went. I can't answer that. You know, I should have been going to a couple of gigs before that. And I certainly like Professor Griff, and I certainly like Ruthless Rap Assassins, but I didn't go. And it wasn't a case of I lived a long distance away and I'd have to get the last bus. I think my friend was driving by that point. So I don't know, I can't.
That's fair enough. I'm always interested in that because I think you hit the nail on the head there. You know, the trouble with Newcastle a lot of the time for a number of years is that they'll get somebody who's it's their precious little mixing desk, but they haven't got a clue about hip hop sound. Yeah, they're used to rock, thrashing guitars and bass and drums.
Yeah. And Newcastle's a rock city, you know what I mean?
It is.
Historically, more so.
Historically more so. But I mean, even now it's a dance city as well, isn't it? It's a dance and rock city. You know, and so when you have gigs on in places like the O2, my eyes always roll like, because you know it's going to be rubbish. I already know it's going to be rubbish. Unfortunately, it's all right upstairs. It's all right. It's hit or miss, but it's not always great, you know. But downstairs is just like I saw Parliament Funkadelic, George Clinton's experience 2 years back, and it was absolute. I mean, the show was good, but the sound was trash. Do you know what I mean? I've seen De La Soul trash. I've seen Wu-Tang downstairs trash. Like not them, but the actual sound. But then it makes them look like trash, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because the sound's so wooden and horrible. But I've also been to see grime artists there. So I've saw Lethal Bizzle there. The sound was all right. I've saw Tiny Temper there. I took my son. The sound was all right. So what's the problem? I know it's not quite the same, but there's very much similarities, you know, with the sound. So why is it they can get it right for them, but they can't get it right for him? It's like as though they don't respect him. Artists. That's what it feels like, you know.
It'd be very hit and miss, yeah. I mean, back to seeing Parliament, that would have been one of my first gigs. They started touring about 92, 93, and I went to Leeds Town County to see George Clinton and reformed sort of Parliament.
Yeah.
And excellent. He came on at Maggot Brain, he finished off, he did Atomic Dog, he got down the crowd, and he had a Congo line going, he was dressed. I saw him at the Sage at, I don't know when he would have played the Sage. I could have Googled it. I didn't know this was going to become a conversation. But, it'd be about 2000, 2002. And it was in an all-seated thing at the Sage, and the ushers would tell him to sit down. I mean, George Clinton and James Brown literally defined, like, precursor of dance music, you know what I mean? So you got them in this sterile environment where you can't fucking dance, you know what I mean? Not that I dance, but... You can't have Parliament from the Derek in a place where you can't dance, where you can't, you know. I totally agree with you.
But I think the trouble is, as well, is that, you know, the Sage is a soulless place anyway, and the very
it's fantastic, and that's the flip side. But yeah, it's the most sterile, corporate.
It is very reading. It's horrible. It's horrible, you know. And they've never learned their lessons all this time. You know, they keep saying it's for the people, it's for everybody, but it's not. You know what I mean? The way they've treated urban music there over the years has been terrible, you know.
Well, this is a quote, so it's not out of context. Smooth and Terrell played there. Not Smooth and Terrell, it was Smooth and Frank. And Smooth asked me to DJ.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend would DJ, and I think the James Taylor Quartet may have been on as well. Smooth would normally cut DJ, but there was a lot of people there. This is about 2000, me and my friend DJ'd. And when we came out of the gig, we got stood next to a guy waiting for a taxi, and it was a guy, I'm going to use a sweeping term, he looked like a middle-class person from Chestnut, certainly speaking that way, you know what I mean? And he saw me had flight cases because we'd been DJing. And he's with his daughter, and his daughter corrected him. But this is the archetypical person I've got in my head off that experience. Yeah. He says, "Oh, you lesbian? Yeah, yeah." And he said, "You all right?" "Yeah, we're fantastic." He goes, really odd show that. I've never seen that scratching before. All I've seen is those Africans doing it on the telly.
Wow.
But that's the sort of person that goes there, Fred.
Yeah. I'm not going to dispute that. You know, we've, as you know, we've done things, you know, with as a collective with a bridge, with Sandy that did work at the Sage. He's lost his job, bless him. And it to me, it is very typical of the way they've treated urban music. They kept them in the back, like, you know, out the way, the back in the arches. If we tried to have 2 shows there, the way they treated us, to me, was shocking. You know,
it was as a hip hop community in the treating you class.
They're scared stiff because obviously some of the crowd that sort of follow the hip hop scene, and not everybody, because I don't do it, but you know, so some of them were smoking weed outside. But it's like their attitude is everybody who likes hip hop smokes weed, which isn't true. Yeah, okay. And some people are respectful to not go outside, just outside the sort of like revolving doors. They would go around the corner, around the back, and do it if they feel as though they need to do it. But they've got this attitude that it's like that for everybody. So they never want to put like urban music on. When we always put, there was all those restrictions. You can't do this, you can't do that. And it's just like, why? And then when they had us on at the same time that there was when we did the first, I think it was the first bridge event. They had it on at the same time that was these like sort of like, I don't know, Northumbria dancers, you know, like middle class people.
Yes.
Sort of like sword dancing type stuff. It's just like, why would you put us on like virtually at the same time? Of course there's going to be a clash. They were looking like us as though we were going to mug them. Okay. And I kept on trying to be sort of like speaking to see, you know, like, you know, I'm interested in what you're doing, how's it going, and all of that. But they were like scared. You could see it. And it didn't work. And I just always feel as though it's sort of like, yeah, we'll do it once a year just to say we've done it. But for the rest of the time, we'll have it. We'll not have anything like that on. I just think it's always sad when that happens. You know what I mean? Because if the Sage is supposed to be for the people of the Northeast.
That's why it gets grants based on that for the average person. That's why it was set up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's where they get the grants from. It's for everybody to go to, black, white, people with disabilities, people not. Do you know what I mean? LGBT community, people from some of the most deprived areas of the Northeast, and some of the people from the affluent areas. It's for everybody. But it looks like the people with the cellos and the cornets and the, you know what I mean, and the, I don't know what
it's the same as public, you know what I mean?
They get looked after. All of those people get looked after in comparison to people who want to learn DJ skills or want to learn to make music on computers. They're sort of marginalised, and I just think it's
that group identity, isn't it? It's that shorthand for user all the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll go, right, just start coming up on your topic of smoking. I've got nothing against, you know, yes, well, not essentially, it is illegal, but you get an environment where people are stoned and people are drunk.
Yeah.
We're going to get the most problems. I mean, yes, you know, if you ring the old bill and say, they've been smoking weed, it's illegal, come and arrest them. But if people smoke weed, they're fairly mellow. I don't know anyone who gets like uptight.
Craig, don't get us wrong. There's some of the people there that really pay me off. That do smoke weed and have their cans with them, and they pay us off because they should know better than to sort of like be standing directly outside the revolving doors. I think there should be a bit of respect and all that. So don't get us wrong, but you're judging it on 4 or 5 people and not on everybody else that's there.
Well, see, I'm there. I'm a straight edge vegan, so don't tell me with that shit.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to do.
It's also good anywhere where there's middle class people, and get yourself to the toilets and see how much powder's on the powder residues all over the toilets. Do you know what I mean?
My friend DJ New Year's Eve, you know what I mean? It was cocaine central, you know what I mean?
So
but that's a status thing, that drug, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway, get off these political
digress and we get a bit
it's important to talk about it because I hate the way hip hop sometimes gets represented. I think it's important that we do talk about stuff like that because there is problems with hip hop, but there's problems with other music as well. But it also always feels like it gets sort of like, and that statement that you said is a classic statement.
But something youth work, you know, like say a happy hardcore, that gets slated.
Yeah.
It's demonising youth, I think, more so. I mean, I'm not youth,
exactly what it is.
Middle class.
Yeah.
Demonising youth and youth. You know, see this faddy, obviously, it's not as it's not a credible music, it's not an art form.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. It's going nowhere. It's established itself. It's the biggest selling music in America.
It's music that's evolved. So we've always got to remember that music evolves all the time. So before, we had one instrument, it evolved. So the guitars evolved from different countries, and it's become what it is today with electric pickup on it. You know what I mean? And an amplifier and all of that. It never started out like that. Nor did the flute. Nor did the all of those things have evolved over time. You know what I mean? To be amplified and all the rest of it. So give it some respect. Classical music has changed from when it first came out. So give music its respect. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about it all the time because just get.
No, but I understand everything you just said about that. Age. And
it evolved.
My comment where it's a direct quote of a middle class guy saying that. Yes. If I want to adopt that, like they adopt it's hip hop, you smoking weed, you drinking cans, you brought them cans in with you. That guy's quote. So can I just now assume everyone who goes there is like that guy? I've never seen any of that scratching. Just the Africans doing it on the telly. Can I use that as my template for every person asked there who isn't at a hip hop gig?
There we go.
Yes.
Record number 3. We'll get back. We'll get back to the tunes.
Yes. 2 Live crew. 2 Live is what we are. And I know you're a bit surprised at this, Fred, when I messaged you.
Well, I want to say I was surprised at Rodney O and MC Shy D too, mind. So, 2 Live crew, go on. What's so good about the 2 Live crew to you?
Just everything, really. I mean, yes, some of it, like some of my next choices, if you ask me the best track, I'd just say, Fred, there's no best track. The whole album's the best track, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, this take off We Want Some Pussy.
Oh, please.
Yes. and it's all good. I mean, Mr. Mix. I mean, I like tracks for good DJing on, you know what I mean? I like that cut and paste stuff, and I like... Mr. Mix is one of the... Like I says about General Jeff on the other record. Mr. Mix is up there with Cash Money, he's up there with Aladdin, he's up there with... For me, and he's like a DJ's DJ, not that I'm a DJ. The whole thing's great, and some of the tracks on here on the first tape I've got, they're on the electro comps, you know what I mean? And I can never remember who's who. I should look. Fresh Kid Ice and Brother Marquis. I can never. But, it was a multiracial group, and that's when that's your first Asian rapper. There and then, you know what I mean? And I mean, I even got a jacket like that. I don't know what you were like early 90s. A lot of my friends would have like Raiders jackets and stuff like that because the influx of West Coast stuff. They weren't necessarily into the teams. But I went to Flip and got a jacket like this. You know what I mean? Like a green and orange jacket. I didn't wear my trousers like the gentleman there. I'll just
I hope not. You'll get arrested doing the big market for that. But anyway.
They're unbelievable. And I mean, like, you read the back, the first person to get a shout out is Sir Drew from the Mighty Ethnics.
Right, okay.
He's the first, because like, I'm sure you did it, you buy your records and you get on a bus and you look at the information on the back of the record, so you're reading who they're giving a shout out to and all of that, and you couldn't wait to get home to listen to it, you know what I mean?
Facts.
But like, people were ignoring this stuff. This is still... You see the volume, $5.99? Honestly, volume in Sunderland was great because I had more floor space than I had downstairs. So a lot of import stuff, what we couldn't shift in the other shops, ended up down there.
Right.
And like, I very rarely saw it in other shops. You can see like dead stock. I mean, I already had it, but wouldn't even see Rares in Hell. I had about 20 copies, all sealed with a hand sticker on, you know what I mean? $2.99. So I bought a lot of records down there, and because I didn't start buying records till I had my YES and at school, I didn't have a bob plate on my 18th birthday. I'd have to go downstairs and tape it. I was playing catch up, you know what I mean? And volume suddenly was perfect for that.
Okay.
And people then, this is old. So say I bought that in 1990, people were listening to Black Sheep and that, so they had no interest in that. Well, I had interest in both, and I get more bang for me buck getting all these records I really like, which I missed out because I was too young, I didn't have the money. I could get more records, you know.
Fair enough. I mean, I've never been into Two Live Crew. They've always been one of those jokey bands, jokey groups to me. I've just never really got the appeal.
Well, yes, when it gets more Luther Campbell orientated, you realise sex, rhymes, sell a white fraternity sort of students. Yeah, he egged them on to do that. You know what I mean? But this album, Take Off, We Want Some Pussy, it's good. Second album, the third album, they're gone. They're down that thing, and you wouldn't like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean,
you can't judge them on the other record. Well, you can. The overall picture is they're known for smut rhymes and this, that, and the other. But
very much so.
People forget they were a very credible hip hop act, and Mr. Mix, hands down, one of the best DJs certainly at the time.
I'm not going to argue with you about, obviously your choice is your choice, and this is your favorite.
No.
It's definitely not mine. So, respect to you for that. I've never got into it.
Have you tried listening to it, by the way, since I mentioned this is one of my cuts, have you?
I haven't. I never had the chance this week. I will, and like I say to everybody, you've given me a recommendation. I've actually wrote it down here, and sometime, probably in the holidays over the Easter weekend, if it's nice in the garden, I'll be playing these tunes. I want to go for my walks. I try and listen.
Be careful with the Two Live Crew. You near this, mate.
I'll not be playing that in the garden, definitely not. But when I'm going for me walks, me little welfare walks, I will try and listen to one of the albums and that, But they've never. I've tried to touch base and get into some of it, but as soon as I heard stuff like "Me So Horny," I was like, nah.
but again, without trying to sound pervy, when you were a young male, there wasn't a proliferation of pornography. So these images, these saucy images, if you watch an R&B video now, rightly or wrongly, it's draped in scantily clad women, you know what I mean? So when we went to my friend's house to watch UMD raps, if a video was a bit, young and full of hormones, if it was saucy, you'd never seen anything like that, you know what I mean? You wouldn't see anything like that on mainstream Top of the Pops or anything. So when you watch it raps, they'd go there, blah, 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 and like, I don't know how iconic Ice-T's cover with Darlene, I know it sounds like I'm objectifying women, but I'm just putting it in place of how over-sexualized they are now. And back then, as a young male, there was no reference to anything.
But then you might be able to argue and say, is this why we've got such an issue now where, over the last 2 days, over the last couple of weeks, we've had the death of, the murder by the hand of what seems to be a police officer, Sarah Everard. We've then had, in the last 2 days, we've had the reports of how many young women have been sexually assaulted in school and college and raped in toilets and haven't reported it for the last, in the government have known about it since 2016, and it's only coming out majorly now in 2021. That's scandalous. And what I would ask is, if that's been going on all this time, has hip hop, or sort of like that, and I'm not blaming hip hop for this, but I'm saying like that kind of like culture of videos and the way women are treated and talked about, has it contributed to the way young men think about women? We do have to look and examine ourselves. We can't just keep talking about censorship and we can't censor this and we can't do that. I feel as though we have a moral responsibility, because actually you are and I am. I'm a dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters and I have a son. I should be teaching my son the right way and wrong way to be going on, and I should teach my daughters to not accept. I'll give you a quick example of that, and I do want to do an actual hip hop and females podcast like this as well. I'm trying to sort it out.
It's a complex. It's a whole kind of worms.
I'm not blaming one person for it. I'm not blaming the Two Live Crew, but what I'm saying is we have to look at the culture that we've allowed to put that we've allowed in our psyche, and we've allowed to become sort of mainstream because of us buying the music and was going there and us giggling at some of the lyrics. And then all of a sudden, when my daughter comes home and says, this is what's happened to us, when your wife or your mom's abused and we get upset and annoyed by it because some other blokes dead do that, it's like, well, we're all right when women have been talking about that on records. When NWA are saying stuff around this and that, we'll have to take some responsibility. I believe we do anyway. That's just my belief. I'm not saying that people should be people. hip hop artists shouldn't be babysitters for everybody, but they do have a responsibility. I do believe that. I do believe
it's sort of complex. You say, is it life imitating art or vice versa? And if it's normalised, how can you distinguish that a story and perhaps fantasy if they're rapping that and it's not actual? Because it's like the Ghetto Boys, some kids, I can't remember what they did, whether it was a school shooting, they just blamed the Ghetto Boys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now if you're listening to the Ghetto Boys, and the Ghetto Boys on the second album, Willie D's rapping about the Tate LaBianca Manson murders, you've got to realise that's like watching a violent film at that stage. And I
agree. And I'm not... I hear all these arguments, and I'm not disputing that. But what I'm saying is, if you then see so this report this morning, you had lots of young men who think it's all right to grab lasses on stairs. And I'll give you an example. So, as you know, I'm a youth work manager, and we were doing a survey a couple of years ago around this very subject about the sort of like sexual exploitation and the way young men, or men in general, treat young women. Okay, so we were doing a survey about have you ever been shouted in the street? Have men shouted at you in cars? Have people grabbed a hold of you? Have you been sexually assaulted at school? All this stuff. And when I was doing it in Newcastle College, and a lot of the young women would say, well, I don't know why, it's not relevant to me, it's never happened to me before. I said, well, that's fine if it's not happened to you before, that's great. I says, but a lot of young women it has happened to, and I said, have you ever changed where you've walked when you're walking down the street because you've seen a group of men? Oh yeah, well, there's loads of pervy men on the building site, so I always walk the other way when I see them. And then we're talking about in the college. Now, this is young women. I was talking about 20 of them at the time. They're all around my table. Okay, and they were all saying that they'd never happened to them before. And I said to them, have you ever changed the way when you're walking through Newcastle and there's a building site and you're walking down the street, have you ever stopped? Oh yeah, well, we don't go past certain bars because the men are disgusting. Right, okay, so it has happened to you before. Okay, you have to stop what you're normally going to do and go the long way to go to a shop just because you're worried about getting shouted at. And that is affecting you. Then we're also talking about the fact in the college there's a sort of like a what do you call it, part like construction where there's a lot of males working construction workers, okay, and the girls will not walk that way because the lads will grab a hold of them, try and drag them into the alcoves and wolf whistle at them and abuse them and tell them to get their boobs out and all the rest of the stuff that they do. Again, that's men thinking that's all right to do that, okay, but where they're learning that from, they're learning it from other men. Okay, and some of those men are on telly as well, though. And some of those men are in videos.
Look at God, I forget who he's called. Trump. Yeah,
exactly.
He's in charge, or he's a puppet to be in charge. You know, it's at the top. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And that's I mean, a lot of things would factor in. I've never researched anything, but yes, I mean, say exploitation and objectifying of women is eye candy in a hip hop R&B video.
Yeah.
To the it's a whole scope. I mean, it's there.
It is, but if you think about it, if you think it's all right to use women as eye candy, as they call it, okay, to objectify women, if that's what you think's all right in a music video, and you think, oh, it's just a music video, it must seep into your psyche. And it
does, yeah.
It does. And if you're watching that with in my case, my son, sitting on my knee as a child, my son was born in 96, so he's sitting on my knee watching these hip-hop videos on UMTV. He was already learning some of those stuff from an early age. That's my point. It's already seeping into his psyche. Do you know what I mean? So...
He's got a strong... I mean, you...
Go on, sorry?
I'm gesturing to you and saying he's got a strong dad, so you should...
Yeah, but not everybody has. Not everybody has. And actually, what I could also be argued is that I was actually being a hypocrite and also sending out mixed messages. You can't do it, but it's all right for this guy to do it. But I'm sending out a mixed message.
I mean, that's some of them. Yeah.
I haven't got all the answers. I'm just saying, we do have to look at ourselves and think, are we doing the right things by our young men and our young women?
All you do is lead by example, Fred.
Leading by example
on individual cases, you know what I mean?
But leading by example might also mean that we need to fix up about what we listen to and what we play on the telly and what we listen to in the car. that might be also leading by example, not just saying, well, actually it's wrong, but it's just entertainment. And I agreed what you said. And it's a bit like what Dr. Dre said in that thing called The Show that Def Jam brought out, when he said, you know, if everybody just thinks it's just entertainment, if everybody thinks what we're saying is true, then they're daft. Yeah, they are daft. And it is right that, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone can kill loads of people in their videos, okay? But that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right that they're also doing that in song. Do you know what I mean? They're both wrong. Not one's wrong and one's right. Yeah, they're both wrong.
You think it is blurred what is entertainment and what is...
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of soul searching and just thinking about it, and some songs I'll really struggle to play now. They're in my collection, they're behind us here, they're on CD, yeah, they're on vinyl, but there's some songs I'll struggle to play now because I find some of them just totally repulsive, actually, to be honest. I just think I can't play them anymore. You know?
Well, yes, when it changed to down south or it changed west coast,
yeah,
it is a sort of someone who's in his 30s, when it changed to where's my bitches, where's my holes,
yeah.
Figure that. I liked hip hop when it was exotic, and it was people bragging about stuff. It was people who usually came from nothing and were empowered. Yeah, this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. Then it went a bit Afrocentric, but on the back end of that, it went into that whole slump. And all these white people who own record labels, it's edgy and it sells. You know what I mean? And the subject matter. I mean, yes, there is a whole different strand of hip hop, but the main core of the subject matter of hip hop that sells, or rap that sells, if you want to make that distinction, has been the same content since 1995. You know what I mean? And I don't listen to that, and it's not me.
If hip hop had come out, okay, out of the white council estates only, okay, not the black ones, not the black ghettos or projects or whatever you want to call it around America, if it had come out in Britain and America in the white suburb areas, right, okay, where in the poor areas where they were disrespecting women, where they were rape culture, they were talking about pinning women down, calling them sluts and hoes, and you think about NWA's second album especially, but things like A Bitch is a Bitch and all the rest of it, yeah, if you think back to them, okay, and not just the West Coast, New York as well, because they would be talking about some shit as well, okay, back in the day. If that was the other way around and we're talking about basically raping and sexual assaulting women, we wouldn't have hip hop now. I don't believe we would have hip hop now. I don't believe we would have it. I really don't. I think it would have been banned and stopped, and it wouldn't have been pushed, and it wouldn't have got anywhere. I think when it was majority black, 99% black people talking about killing each other, raping women, selling drugs to each other, it was fine. And I think we've got to look at that. We've got to look at that. We really do.
Yeah. It's black genocide. It's keeping people down. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we need to look at that. We not just black people. I think everybody needs to look at that and think, well, what's happened there? Because I don't believe it. In a million years, if the same subject matter was being said with a 99% white people doing it, as poor as they are or not, it wouldn't have went anywhere. It wouldn't have got to where we've got now. So it's just something to think about. Anyway, let's move on with the show.
Yes.
Two Live Crew. What's your favourite song of the Two Live Crew album?
Cut It Up.
Cut It Up.
Cut It Up. It's called, yes.
Okay.
And there's some good rapping in there. It's as good as any other. But at that time, I was expanding into like trying to find breaks, and they used Ralph McDonald Jam on the Groove, and there's a really unusual percussion section in there, which I had. That was Peter Kay, by the way, percussion. I don't know what my hands were doing that. There's a percussion break in there, which was completely unusual. It was only on my breaks and beats, so it was easily findable. And then I got the record. But that was kind of when I was transcended out of rap, but I was looking at the broader picture of music in the bigger context. If they've used them, if I've got a reference point, I can listen to that record because of the sample. Do I like the rest of the record? And then do I get into that genre, which I consequently did? And that would be a transition record. Into looking for breaks, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the big wave record buying habits to where I'd be now with buying records, you know what I mean? And just looking at music from that period and liking that stuff, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Album 4.
And these, out of the pile I've got, I would say this is my second favourite. Them, much of a muchness, and they are great. Like them, know them inside out, know them well. But I'd hold more on that one. I like that more.
Okay.
And it's absolutely, yeah.
I think this is the third time the Skinny Boys have been picked.
Yes. This album before?
I think that album's the second. I can't remember. I think so. I can't remember. I need to check. Because I don't really, you're picking some albums that I've never even listened to be honest, or skipped. So Two Live Crew I have listened to, Skinny Boys I have listened to, but only skipped.
Perhaps the wrong end of Two Live Crew there. Yeah.
So I've just sort of skipped over them. I haven't really, and that's only because of this. So Two Live Crew I only listened to because of you. Like try to Skinny Boys I've tried to get into because about 2 or 3 other people have mentioned them. You and 2 others I think have mentioned them. So I thought I'd better check them out. Because I originally thought the Skinny Boys were just a sort of like a jokey rivalry to the Fat Boys. The Fat Boys were a joke, so I'm not going to listen to the Skinny Boys. You know, I didn't really realise that it was serious. You know,
the Fat Boys are serious though. They've been just like the two.
Another word.
Once they sort of mocked them because they were fat and getting like. Look, gluttonous and eat these pizzas and we'll do this. The first, like, stick 'em up and all them. The early Fat Boys 2 albums have got great tracks on it. You know what I mean? Not novel at all. They're good rappers, good beatboxers. Yeah.
No, I agree, but I just when you first used to see them, and then they brought out Wipe Out in the exactly, and then they were on Disorder.
Just again with Chubby Checker.
Yes, there we go, and then Crush Groove, All You Can Eat. You know, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. No, man, half of them, you're fat. Let's go in with this. What are you going to do?
Sex Machine. Remember Sex Machine, the James Brown song? Yeah.
But yeah, there's great tracks on the first 2 albums. They're not consistent albums. Good albums. They're good, yeah. I like them.
Okay, cool. So Skinny Boys.
Yes, from Connecticut.
Okay.
When people go on about raw hip hop and they say, I don't know, it sounds like I'm going to be picking on Muna Raw, it's proper raw and it's underground. Rip the Covers on one of the Street Sounds electro comps, albeit when they sort of merged into the hip hop ones. Rip the Cut is just savage, you know what I mean? It's like the most raw, basic, garagey type, scratchings, just brutal. It's unbelievable. And up until I met my friend who sadly passed in this record, Ben consequently holds memories with him, which adds to a good record. I'd never heard the album about 1991. I'd only heard the second album, and I thought Whip the Cut was a 12, because as you know, there was no internet. And if your mates didn't have them records, or you didn't hear them on the radio, you wouldn't know they exist. You couldn't just like, right, Skinny Boys, type that in. Oh, they did that. You had no reference to anything, you know what I mean? If you didn't see it on UMTV Raps, not that I listened to Westwood, if you didn't hear Westwood playing it, or John Peel, or it wasn't on the Street Sound comps, you just didn't know, you know what I mean? So he played me this album, and I was like, crikey, this is unbelievable, because I thought the second album, Skinny, I'm looking at that one's weightless. The other one's Skinny and Proud. I think the second one, I thought that was the first album.
Right.
You wouldn't know. My mate bought that in our price in Sunderland, and we think we're buying the album. We don't have that knowledge. You know what I mean? So I played this. I was like, this is unbelievable.
Nice one. Okay. Well, what did you say your favourite song off that album was?
I'm going to avoid saying Rip the Cut. First track, Dropbox.
Dropbox,
the first track, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the whole album's consistent. It's really good, you know what I mean? The kind of very sort of shouty rappers, like Beastie Boys would be. It's drum machines with stabs. It's really basic beatboxing. And it is because, like, people like Razel, as good as he is, I just think he's like a minor bird. He's like the guy off Police Academy, just mimic stuff. When I hear beatboxing, I want to hear Bismarck E doing some slightly, where you're aware it's beatboxing and he's not directly trying to convince you it is the instrument he's doing, So like Dougie Fresh and that, when beatboxing got too competent, I don't like it.
I'm exactly the same. I was having a conversation about this. Is it Killer and them
Great, yeah.
But I prefer like Dougie Fresh, you know, with all the clicks and all of that, and that you know it's actually somebody beatboxing. It's not somebody trying to sound actually like an instrument, but it's actually like a beatbox. Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, nice one. Okay, then. Your connection with, for somebody who doesn't like live shows, and I alluded to this before, you're the main dude for putting hip hop shows on in Newcastle, I would say.
No, I just work for the venues, you know what I mean?
Okay, so explain that then. So how does that work then?
How does what work?
Just so put me right then. You're saying you work for the venue, so you don't book the show. The show.
No, of course not. No.
So how does it work then?
Basically, my inroad was I do flyers, promotion, or I do the guest list or stuff for venues. Just so I knew the people, individuals who put it on. So Sean Swain, I'd work for Shindig. I'd help him out, and I'd work for Tallest Paul on an indie night. I'd work for Turbulence for James. I'd be doing the flyering for that. I've not put anything on. I mean, the odd occasion Paul's gone to Bazaar, I've had an offer on him. What do you reckon? I go, well, I'd like to see them, but I don't know what they would do in Newcastle. Yeah. But I've worked gigs, I would crew, like I've lift the gear in. So in that capacity, yes, but no, I've not put anything on.
Okay, I stand corrected. I thought you actually put.
No.
So like the ones like, you know, what was it, what was it called now? The Kingdom Tour.
Yes. I mean, the guys they got the bid for that. Paul was potentially going to get that, and I've worked for the Academy. We used to do Bulletproof on, so I'd do the door doing the guest list there. So Newcastle's small, so if you know, it sounds really sort of cringy and like, oh, I know them. But if you know, like, so I know, I think it's been finished now. Jordan, and it wasn't doing well, so he gave me loads of tickets to sort of do a giveaway in the shop, you know what I mean?
Like, okay, that was a connection, okay.
So I'd help promote that, and obviously working in a record shop, it helps us, and it's not community-based, because obviously you want to cover your back for the artist you've put on, you know what I mean? So, I've sort of been a runner where I'd get stuff, you know, I'd go out and get the ride and do stuff like that. So I just did odd jobs on the peripheral with people who's been putting the stuff on, you know what I mean?
I just wish that some of these guys would speak to us a bit more. They don't tell us much, you know, like, and try and get us to, you know, like, there's people there like us, like Sandy, you know, who do things and put things on. And, you know, like when the Kingdom thing was coming on, I had a sort of like, I'd met with Ty already, so I had a sort of like connection there. I'd met him like down London, and then also the guy who was doing the video for them and that, you know, his family. Do you know what I mean? His mum and dad went to school with my dad, so there's a connection there. And like, so I was saying to them, look, you know, your ticket sales.
That was at the Academy. That was an Academy gig. So that's a big corporate thing. I don't know if they had them nationally at their other venues, you know what I mean?
I was telling them, I was saying, look, you know, you, Rodney, you know, Ty, Rodney, and Twang, you're coming up here, and your tickets aren't selling. There's not even get advertised very much. People in the hip hop community don't even know what's happening. You know, you need to, you know, can you do a video? I said, do a video, get it to me, I'll get it shared around, get it out there and about. And I just think, you know, when things like that are happening, they should connect with you in the record shop. They should connect with the other shops like Beatdown and that.
But previously, when RBM was over the road, I remember we do installs with stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. I saw one,
and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember because I went going in the shop one day and Rich saying, oh, are you coming in later on? I said, why? He said, oh, Black Twang's performing tonight, but he's coming in here first. I said, well, I'm working because I was waiting on the door that night, so I couldn't go and see Black Twang. He says, but he's coming in the shop if you all fancy coming in. So, you know, I said to my dad, oh, can you watch my son while I'm just nipping back into town to the record store? And Asher said to my son, who are you going to see? I said, oh, Black Twang. Can I come? Because he loved the Kickoff album, you know, by Twang. And I took Asher in there. And Asher loved it, got his photograph taken with him and all that. He was just a little bod. You know, I was carrying him in the shop. He was just a little bod at the time. I just think that's what should happen. There should be more conversation with the record shops, with guys, you know, that do things like, you know, Sandy at this, well, he was at the stage, but Sandy, and he runs it, obviously, he runs Method Radio. There's us lot who do the Vinyl Vandals stuff. There's all these different people, you know, that are doing stuff within the Northeast sort of hip hop scene, that the first natural thing should be, do you know this is on? Do you want a free ticket for your radio show to promote it? They don't do that. I'm just passing out there. I just think.
Oh no. It's an interesting point. So it depends your view. Would you say there's people into hip hop in Newcastle? Or would you say there's a scene?
Right. I hate using the scene. I used to talk about the scene, but it's bollocks. There's no scene in Newcastle as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I think though that there's people that you probably don't know that I know who are really into hip hop, but don't mix in the hip hop scene. Yeah. So they don't walk around with the baggy jeans on and the Public Enemy t-shirt and all of that. But I know from working as a door as a bouncer, for instance, pub managers and that I know who wear suits, who have the beards, you know what I mean, and wear the brogues and all that type of stuff. Okay, you know, like it's sort of like what's the word that they call them? I don't know, hipsters types and people like that. But when they've got in the car with me and they've heard me playing, they know word for word tunes, and I'm like, whoa, you know that? Yeah, of course I do. I'm banging the black twang. I'm banging to roots maneuver, and I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't realize, because they don't fit the bill of sort of like a hip hop fan, like maybe it's me and you do. Okay, you know what I mean? People could see me walking down the street and probably guess, even at my age, that I'm a hip hop fan, but you wouldn't know these guys and some girls that I know as well, but that are bang into it, but they don't get told that these shows are on. That's the point I'm getting at. Do you know what I mean? So
well, stuff, you know, like I used to hand fly on Northumberland Street. It's now jumped to algorithms, telegraphs are online. So the whole thing has changed, and it hasn't quite. It's a bit like, you know, like COVID's proved the high street's dead. The whole thing's changed. You know what I mean? And Newcastle's been a rock city, and rock people can get on with people. Dance people can get on with people because they're all like sweeping generalisation, but they all hug each other. But hip hop's always been fragmented. Like they put stuff on at the uni, and people are going, "Well, why is the students here?" It's almost like you've got to validate. If I don't know you, you've got to validate me. It's your pedigree.
No, I agree with that. I think it's just
hip hop. It can't be, look, I just enjoy that one act and I like them. This is my free time and my hard-earned money. I pay to come and see them. That's not valid for a lot of people.
I totally agree with you. And I think the problem that we've got is, you know, people talk about the scene. The problem with the scene, the majority of people in the scene in Newcastle, and when I say Newcastle, I mean, you know, your Sunderland and all the rest of it. The problem with a lot of these people is they are rappers and they're DJs. So they actually think that they should get a free ticket to an event, that they're actually artists in their own right. So they don't really believe in going to shows that much. They tend to want to be outside and hang around and stuff like that. But there is people that are actually into the music, but don't follow the scene. So they'll see them dressed up on a Friday and Saturday night, and they'll be down the big market. Do you know what I mean? They'll be round the corner in the so-called Diamond Strip. But
I agree with you. I would say there's several bunches of people who are into hip hop, and hip hop's a pretty broad thing. I wouldn't say there was a scene, Freddie.
No, there's not. There's people say there's a scene. I agree with you. But
they would stake their claim as being part of the scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but if I put it another way, when Wu-Tang were on the last time at
they were on at the Academy.
They were at the Academy, and when Jizza was on at the Riverside, did you see the diverse crowd that was there though? Yeah.
Pardon?
How diverse the crowd was, especially at the Jizza gig. Yeah, I was seeing people there that would come and tap me on the shoulder and I read for them like, "What you doing here?" Well, I love Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang, I'm in. And I'm like,
how do you do that? That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really good. But
I mean, it's good for me as a person being there. You know what I mean? You know, and it's good if you work for a venue that can get diverse people here.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean Swain and Sten used to do. Many people did Force. I don't know if you went to any Force gigs at the uni. They had like Master Race on. Did different things on. I had a lot of good stuff on.
I think I want to see Raekwon there. I want to see Raekwon at the university.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got to interview him. I'm sure you sent me an interview. You know.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
One of the things is on something you mentioned earlier. At the end of his show, she goes, "Where's all my bitches? Where's all my hoes? Can I get you on stage?" Right. and he had them all on for his finale, and he was abusing women, I guess.
Yeah.
Some or certainly exploit them.
Yeah.
And he came out the back. Dave Stone had put it on. He introduced me and Carol, who were going to interview him. And the first thing, my friend Carol's a bit older than me. He apologised to her. He says, "Nice to meet you, man. I'm sorry for the profanities and the thing at the end." He apologised to her because what he saw was, I think he's about my age. He saw a woman who was older than them, seeing him come off stage after that, and it was that transition between him as a person and him as the person on stage. But I've digressed a bit. But back to the scene and people's sense of entitlement. People says to Sten, who could divine people, and most people there'd be someone you didn't like in the picture. They wanted an open mic. All the local MC says, "Look, I want an open mic." It's one of the the founding things is this flipping the script and doing whatever. And he says, "Look, it just sounds amateurish." He says, "Tell you what it is. If you give me a demo tape, I listen to the demo tape, and you're good enough, you can be a supporting act." Yeah. You've got to get your act together. It's not just you getting drunk and you and your mate going on like a bus. Yeah. You've got to think about putting a show on for the people who's paid their hard-earned money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Invariably could be students who you sort of you're viewing them. They're only students only got into it, so like Cypress Hill or something. They're not a hip hop.
It's not just that you want them to come back to your next show that you put on. So yeah, they want to go away and think, right, I'm going back to one of their shows again in the future. Do you know what I mean? You do.
But I think it's fair. You're giving the person who wants an open mic, you're giving them potentially a bigger opportunity by saying, look, if you can do a good support slot, better than an open mic, you've got a support slot.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But that means you've got to get your act together. You know what I mean? Literally got to get your act together. Totally. So there's so many people who's fragmented and go, his opinion doesn't count because I've been in it longer than him. I'm more old school than him, and you get all that woolly sort of stuff. I mean, you ring a plumber up to come and fix your boiler. You might get 2 quotes. You don't ask each individual, "Oh, you've been doing it 27 years. You did it 26 years. So you're more old school. You get to fix my boiler." You know what I mean? The real world doesn't work like that. You know what I mean?
Doesn't. And also, a lot of these people are saying that haven't even done a gig outside further than Newcastle or Gateshead.
Don't get me wrong, in place for everything. If you just want to be an underground act and do your bedroom stuff or do whatever you do, there's different tiers of what you can do.
Yeah, there is, but you can't expect to be on the show with Raekwon or Jizza though. I think that's what I'm getting at. Some of these people are expecting to be on some of these top shows with Dead Prez or, you know what I mean, whoever, like EPMD or whoever comes to even like the upstairs room in the...
I mean, yes, it doesn't mean, right, you're into hip-hop, you've MC'd, you did it since 1990. You needn't tell us how, you needn't do is give us a glimpse. Have you got any YouTube videos? No, you can just do it. You can do it. You do that. Yeah, you're not going to do any other, you're not any other walk of life. You're not just going to be able to say, I did it for ages. And, we keep it real, we represent, therefore we do this. That entitlement. It's show and prove. You've got to have some ability to I mean, if it is like, right, we're doing it at Newcastle Arts Centre, and it is grassroots UK hip hop, and everyone gets a grassroots local thing, and everyone gets a turn. That's fair enough, and that's where you're at with that. That's fine. But if you've got like something where you sold 500 tickets and you've got an act coming over from America, and you haven't got any tracks, you haven't got a show, you haven't. It's good. People could walk out on that, or not come back. We'll go to the pub across the road, get some more drinks, and come back on the main.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Okay, I think you're right.
Yes.
I think we both agree on that one.
Yes.
What's your final track? Album, sorry.
Schooly D's mighty debut.
Yeah, we're going.
It really is, out of these records, in my opinion, it is the pick of the bunch.
Brilliant.
And he's great.
Yeah. Saw him live in Newcastle,
He played at the Riverside, the old Riverside upstairs, mid-90s. Wasn't many people there.
When he played.
Unbelievable.
He played at the Mayfair with Big Audio Dynamite. He supported Big Audio Dynamite at the Mayfair. Yeah.
What sort of period?
What's that?
What sort of period?
Bigger Dynamite, when did they come out? Was when they were doing their first album. It was the second time they'd been, because they'd been to Tiffany's in London, Posse and Whistle. Remember Whistle? Just Bugging?
Yeah, only Bugging.
Yeah. They supported Big Old Dynamite then. It was the second time they come, so it must have been their second album. So I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to check. But it was at the Mayfair. And I saw, and most people didn't even know. Most people didn't even know who he was. And I was like, oh my God, Scooty D, I've just got his album. And I rushed to the front of the stage, and there was some daft old punks in there, like skinheads and that, spitting on him. And one of them was giving me some bit of racist grief. So he got the feel. I felt he felt my left hook on his jaw, basically, because he was trying to have a go at us and that, you know. Bouncers coming to throw us out, and basically, like, Scooty D looked, and the crowd were like, oh, he's done nothing wrong there, racist, get them out, and they dragged out. Can't believe someone would go with racist attitude to go and say Biggie with two black guys in the group, but here's what it is. Yeah. But
I'm not racist, so I can't speak for racists. There are none of them. I know what it's about, but
yeah, it was a funny one.
I can't slip into their mindset.
Yeah, well, thank God nobody wants to. But yeah, it was just we had to be at a place like that to go and see Big Old Dynamite, and then there's Scooty D comes on stage, and he's just strutting with his chin going from left to right like this, you know. He was just stalking up and down the stage as he was rapping. Get your feel eyes on, and that was class.
Well, when I saw him, he did. Yeah, he put on a show. You know what I mean? Hip hop is just some guys lazily approaching the mic. You know, you give it up for this, this, that, and the other. He came out and he says, "Yo," and he was dressed kind of normal. I don't know, normal's probably a day, but he wasn't dressed overtly old school hip hop, should I say? And he's going, "Yeah, Scooty D in the house, yeah. I'm going to get my DJ to warm it up. I'm going to get him to take you back to 1986, and I'm going to come out." And he went back. He got a sheepskin coat. He got gazelle glasses. He got his fat gold chain. He got his Kangol and everything. And he came back like a super fly b-boy, straight PSK. It was one of the best gigs I've ever been to. And he knew exactly his audience and what
his crowd. Yeah, he definitely did.
Come to see. Because some people come up here and they go like, "I've never heard of Newcastle, and will they get this?" And they don't. He was bad. He had loads of charisma, loads of presence on stage, and just looked fly. Just really, yeah.
Tell you what else was that? I think it was Black Elvis 3000 or something.
Was this a Cool Key thing?
It was. Who was it? Black Elvis 3000. I think it was something to do with Sieg Sputnik. I can't remember. It was something like that. I was like at the bar, like sort of watching, thinking, "What's this?" Wasn't really ready for it. I'd never really heard it before. And you know when you go to a gig and you don't know any of the songs, so you're a bit like,
You're looking for your inroad, aren't you? Looking for something really hard.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, go on. So Scooty D.
Well, it's his own record label.
Yep.
The artwork, absolutely brilliant. It's like an extension of what Pedro Bell was doing for Funkadelic and Parliament. You know what I mean? He just comes in and like the Big Audio Dynamite. Excuse me, are they more like a rock group?
Big Audio Dynamite. So it was Mick Jones from the Clash left the Clash and formed the Big Audio Dynamite, which was basically mixing rock music with hip hop, which was so you had like samples in it from like the Good and the Bad and the Ugly. They used to use stuff from the Big Audio, like from there on their first two albums. And they had Sippo, the human beatbox from London Posse. He beatboxed the songs called "Come On Every Beatbox." So yeah,
I thought they were just a straight rock group, but
no, definitely not. Definitely not. Check out the albums.
I thought the irony of it, Scooty D's first track, "I Don't Like Rock and Roll." I've seen the video for that.
Yeah,
he's kidnapping people in his van and beating them up with a bag over his head.
That's mad. So it's sort of half black and white, isn't it? It's like very dark.
Yeah. But he did another one's "No More Rock and Roll," and he was sort of in a ring just hitting punching rockers and having a fight. You know what I mean? But like this is my point. Hip hop spoke to me. Yeah. And there was music in the house I remember by cassettes and different records just to play with a household record and getting at Christmas. But none of that stuff interested me was singing. Playing computer games and electro, but that grabbing. But I went through a certain period where if anything had singing on, I wasn't having it. I didn't like that. Wasn't for me. it had to be rapping, you know what I mean? And Schoolie D with that really crystallised and cemented that to me.
It was
so the opening of the track where he's going, yo, motherfucker Prince, motherfucker Michael Jackson, and all that. Yes, fucking yes, you know what I mean?
The thing I loved about it as well is it was just raw noise.
Drum machine,
hardly any music.
Money couldn't on fresh, the whole thing.
And it was sort of like, it sort of sounded like it'd been recorded on someone's tape cassette, and then put onto vinyl. You know, so sort of like, you know how the sound came and then it left again, like boom, and then it sounded like the car had gone past and the sound was going away.
Down, it's raw.
Back in again. Yeah.
Him rapping and the other guys Code Money scratching. It's meat and two veg of hip hop at that time. You know what I mean? You're not getting away with it. And even now, if you hear like PSK, like when I used to work with digital, they've got a Function One sound system in there, which is like I think it comes from Miami actually. And it's a top end sort of sound system. When you hear good records with a good, and you hear PSK on a proper system, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
absolutely class. Yeah.
And like Schoolie D, great. Like Saturday Night Live was good.
Oh, that's one of my favourite.
People was great.
Yeah.
Then it's slightly more Afrocentric with
Black enough for you.
I mean, I'm telling you stuff if you like, and you know it. But like Ice-T side, Ice-T Tracy there, he cites this as PSK as the first gangster rap. I mean, he's doing reality raps and story raps like Slick Rick was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just the back cover, man, friend. Just that. What do you have? Just me and him, just doing the boombox. You know what I mean?
You know, the funny thing is as well. I was talking to Riddler about this. My album cover like that is orange. It's not yellow. It's orange.
Well, this is a US press, friend. I've only ever seen it once. Yeah. It's the same in the second album. That's green, the UK one, and Jive. Yeah, that's a yellowy sort of thing.
Right, yeah, mine's green.
I've had both albums, multiple copies of the other albums. UK press. I got this from a Newcastle record fair about 2000. I mean, yes, you can go online now and shoot.
Yeah.
But for me, that was like, I mean, I originally got it when I worked in the galleries on the YDS on cassette. It was big.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I got it. And then, you know, I think the other copy came from Nissan car boot sale. But yeah, that's a US press,
Yeah, nice one. Okay, what's your favourite song off that album?
I'm trying to avoid saying PSK. The whole album is phenomenal. Gucci Time, without a doubt, I guess.
Okay.
It's a tough call, but
yeah,
Gucci Time.
Okay, we're coming to the end now. But I just briefly want to just talk a bit about what we were talking about off camera before.
Sure.
We went well over time, but I think it's been interesting, so I've let it keep rolling.
Your call on that, mate. Your call. I'm
trying to keep things down to an hour or 40 or 45 minutes, but this was you know, some interesting stuff we're touching on. I just want to talk a bit about working in a record shop and, you know, from a hip hop perspective and what that's like now. What do you see? What's the difference between then and now? You know, we're vinyl making a comeback. Is it making a comeback? You know?
I mean, at this very moment, it's a bit hard because we click and collect and mail order only, really, due to COVID.
But I suppose, sorry to interrupt, I suppose.
A tangible example is, I think we've got 10 copies of, is it Nubian Doom or something, like picture disc, like an MF Doom related thing. I don't know Doom's trending because he was announced, he passed fairly recently.
Yeah.
And we're quite taken back that we had to order more copies of that, you know what I mean? Because each shop has its own niche. Historically, RPM has sold more hip hop. Beat Downs kind of could be argued as more of a hip hop shop. But yeah, that would be a tangible example. That new Doom picture disc thing, we've sold quite a few of that. And we found on Record Store Day some of the more novel things really sell. Like there was Old Dirty Bastards debut album, and it was all on 7s in a little box, and it was like 120 quid.
Yeah.
And like, dead cautious, shall we get that in? Because after the day, you know, not everyone's paying 120 quid for that, but like...
Death sells, doesn't it? Death sells.
Yeah. Bowie, Prince, any of that, yeah. That sells. And the record industry's all over that. One of the reps that comes in, like Amy Winehouse is kept in print. It's one of the, that's constantly in print, Amy Winehouse. And it's death and that decadence of her life and the 20 whatever club. People like that. Middle class people are buying into that, someone else's edginess, you know what I mean? Oh, it's heroin shit. They do like that, you know what I mean? When someone passes immediately, it could be a bit more forgotten about, and that then jogs the memory, so you have a peak then. But after that, the death sells. We largely second hand, so we're at the mercy of what comes in, you know what I mean? And so you're at the mercy of what comes in. But the right people, the word spreads and they'll come and buy them records, you know.
Tell you what I noticed when I come to your shop though is the old style record players that you're selling, they're flying out your shop.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Marek knows more about that. We've been at that premises, I'm trying to think, probably coming up 10 years. And at the point we started that, we've got a collection that says, do you want to buy I wasn't working at the shop at that point, but it says to him, do you want to buy the player? And at that point, all you had, vinyl was just coming back. So you get them cheap Crosley sort of record players. Yes. You could get them at HMV, they're going to knock your records, the stylus is going to go. You could only get them or stuff like Linton Audio, high-end stuff. There was no middle ground for anything, you know what I mean? So we could come in selling middle ground players that could be fixed, you know what I mean? So we fitted that niche. Now, we still do all right, but that's on top of what we ordinarily do, you know what I mean? And the art feature, and we get stuff repaired for people, which is another... Just being diverse, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have survived necessarily as a shop just selling modern records, you know what I mean?
But I just, it's just funny when I'm going there, I'm just thinking, wow, because they're not record players as in, like, I don't know, what do you call them, like pioneers or techniques. You're talking about the old style,
Oh yeah, they're a piece of furniture.
The furniture ones, the brown sort of like, is it teak or whatever you want to call it? Yeah, antique record players, and people seem to be really, wanting them as a centerpiece in the houses again.
It's a talking point. It's a big. That's what they were back in the day. Back in the day, they were like ridiculously expensive in the early 70s. And there'd be a piece of furniture during the week, but when you had a bit of family around, you'd open them up and they're a record player, and there was that sense of occasion with them. You know what I mean? When now digital music and music being thrown away, and this, that, and the other. And it's the same with photography, and just taking photos of anything. Like back in the day, say I knew you back in the day, and you were going to London for a bit because you're going to uni. You go, we'll go out here, it'll be good, this will be the final night. We'd bring your camera, wouldn't we? You go, Now, no sense of occasion with them because people just blandly photograph everything. And the same with music's become that. But back then with them players, it was occasion, it's like putting on your Sunday best. We'll get this out, you know what I mean? And we'll listen to our music. And it was a special thing that brought people together, you know what I mean?
Okay. Thanks for that. It's been really, really interesting. Okay. Just a couple of things before we finish. Have you got any last words? Anything anybody you want to shout out before we finish?
Just you guys for putting me on, you know what I mean?
Not a problem.
I can call hip hop and I want to thank God and all these other.
Allah, if you're 5%, don't forget.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to discriminate. I'd have to shout out every sort of.
Okay, Buddha, Joe Rastafari, the lot. Okay. Shout out to Riddler, DJ Riddler. Don't forget his show every Monday night, which has now been extended by an hour. So you don't just get an hour of Riddler, you get 2 hours of Riddler and his hip hop beats, which is from 7 till 9 o'clock on a Monday night on Method Radio. Shout out to John, my partner in crime when it comes to the Seven Bridges mixes that we do once a month. Shout out to the First Lady, which is Julie. We're looking forward to soon be in RPM Records doing the record store day. Hopefully we'll get a slot to be able to play our tunes.
I think second day you might be. We can't do bands, not let you a band because all the outside spaces now. There's 2 dates. I think one's June and the other's July. But the second one, we do like to have that sense of community and get people involved. We appreciate, you know, like we've had this discussion about a scene. I don't think there's a scene. There is a bit of community and there is a group of people in there, but it's very divided. It's very, nothing would bring it together, you know what I mean? And that's sort of like,
why even bother? Why even bother? We don't need to try it. If people want to come along and listen to good music, they come along and listen to good music. End of. Okay. So yeah.
I'm just coming in and complimenting you. I get your angle about, you know, about what you're doing, and you really do push the shop and support the shop.
Yeah.
Good, you know.
Shout out to obviously to yourself, but also shout out to Rich. He's always looked after me, and Marek. Again, you know, they've even supported me when I do my fundraising for charities. They've always given me vouchers and CDs, even from the days when I used to do my under 18s hip hop nights for the kids. They'd always give me a couple of records to raffle off and that, you know. So, you know, respect, maximum respect to them, always will be. It's all about the community. You're definitely right. Anybody who comes on this show from now on will get one of these. Am I in the right place here? Where is it? Where am I? There we go. Just make sure I get it right.
You're really small, Fred. Your middle-aged eyes are on the cusp of wearing glasses. I'm not making that.
Well, I'll tell you what it is anyway. It is a favourite
five. I can give some description.
It's a pin badge. It's a favourite 5 pin badge. So forget Blue Peter. This is a Vinyl Vandals favourite 5. You get a Vinyl Vandals favourite 5 badge. So
yes, fantastic.
When the shop opens, Craig, I'll be dropping this off for you. Okay. But you only get one if you come.
Yes.
Thanks for doing your American. Do you mind going away and thinking about your favourite 5 British albums?
Really, sorry, Fred, I'd really struggle. I mean, I'd struggle to get to 5.
That's fine.
I'm going to back something back at you. I think it's more of a 12-inch art form than an LP. If you're ever doing top 5 to 12,
will be.
I'm on it and I can't contribute.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's Demon Boys, MC Mello.
Whoa, don't tell us that. It's going to be a surprise. Don't tell people.
I'm not going to...
No.
I kind of struggle to get a 5th album, Fred, is what I'm saying. And I know all the ones have been discussed.
Have a think
I struggle for a 4th album. I'd sneak Hijack in as a 4th album. I think the 12s were stronger, and I had a promo cassette of it, and had Shogun Assassin, which wasn't on the album.
Okay.
I was really disappointed. I was absolutely distraught that wasn't on the proper album.
Have a think.
I can get to 3.5. Looks like I'm doing gang signs. I can get to 3.5 on UK albums. Okay. So I'd be the wrong person to get on. UK 12s, I like, and I'm good on.
What I would say, Craig, is have a think about it. You might change your mind. Have a think about it and see if you could do it. Okay? I know it's hard, but we've all got to do it. I've done it. I've done American. I've done UK. So there's no excuse. Have a think about it. Yeah.
I'm not saying no, but yes.
Need pressure, but I'll be coming around your shop every other week and pressuring you.
You got to buy. Is that like a cyber tattoo badge? It's like Bill Gates. I'm now like.
Yeah, it is. Once you've been press ganged into the Freemasons,
it's a tracking bugging device and things dropping off. Okay. Yeah, fair enough, Fred. I will think about it. I'm not just missing time. I'm just priming for where I'm at on UK hip hop. You know.
Need pressure, but I'll be sending the boys around your shop, giving you worry, and the girls. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You know I've got to get at me, don't you?
Thanks a lot for giving me the time. Okay. Hopefully, the next time I see you, I'll be in your shop because we'll be open again on the 12th. We'll be straight.
That's what we'll be in that.
We'll be in that weekend, first weekend. We'll be in there with you know, just for a peruse around, just to say we're back. Okay. Thanks for listening to the Vinyl Vandals. Yeah. Peace.
Peace, fam. Take it easy.
Take care.
Go on.